Welcome to the Here We Go podcast, a place to share your experiences in football programs that players have loved regardless of record or on-the-field accolades. I'm Tom Letson with my co-host, Craig Cicardo. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 9 of the Here We Go podcast. I'm Tom Letson, and I'm here with my co-host, as usual, Coach Cicardo. Coach Cicardo, how you doing today?
Hey, Coach, how you doing, man? It's Friday. It's a great day.
Hey, I'm doing great. Thanks. Again, we have another special guest today that we're going to get into in a minute. Okay. And, we are very pleased at how this is going so far. We're getting a lot of positive feedback, and we really appreciate all the nice words and compliments that people are saying. Okay. Before we do get to our special guest today, and we have a lot to get to, we just want to review. We haven't done this before, but our sponsor, okay, which is the Fit Cove, a personal training studio on Route 9 in Morganville. Okay, so the Fit Cove is our sponsor. So I'm going to stop our screen share now. And Coach Cicardo, I'm going to hand it over to you to introduce our guest.
I mean, we're looking forward to this, and we thought about this often, and why we chose this guest, not only because of our history with him, we go back a long way, but because of the similarities between some of the programs he coached at and our experiences at Allentown. But let me get into this real quick. We're very happy to welcome our friend and coaching colleague, Coach Craig Cicardo, as our guest for this episode of the Here We Go High School Football Podcast. As I mentioned, our ties with Coach Cicardo go way back. I think in the late 80s, early 90s is when we first probably had engagement with Coach, when we were all young coaches. And then, as it always does, our lives took a different paths, all of us. Different ways we did things. Coach Cicardo is a very interesting path, and one that also has some similarities to our own. So we're really excited to talk about that today. Coach Cicardo was an integral part, and this is very interesting, we learned this, was an integral part of the inaugural football class at Lacy High School in 1981. Sorry to age you, Coach. At Lacey, he played QB under the legendary shore football great Lou Vircillo. We played games against Coach Vircillo, always battles. Following his college football career at FDU, where he also played quarterback, Coach dipped his toe into the world of college coaching at McNeese State in Louisiana, where he coached the wide receivers for a short time before returning to New Jersey and becoming the head baseball coach at Mater Dei Prep in Middletown, New Jersey. Shortly after that, the head football job opened at Mater Dei, and Coach was hired at the young age of, and this is amazing, 24 years old, a head football coach. Incredible.
24. Well, you have something in common with him because you were in the 20s too.
Yes, I was.
29.
And he remained as a fixture in the area for 10 years. During his final year at the helm at Mater Dei, the Serps, he led the Serps into the state final against St. Joe's Hamilton. After that, Coach then took the head job at Pinelands Regional High School and was there from 2000 to 2003. During his tenure at Pinelands, he led the Wildcats to their first playoff berth in school history, a great feat. Coach returned to college ball in 2004, coaching the wide receivers for 1 year at Monmouth University, before returning to his roots and joining his beloved head coach Lou Vircillo as an assistant at Lacey for the next 6 years. From 2010 to 2012, Coach Cicardo returned to the college coaching ranks, coaching both at Kean and the College of New Jersey, remaining at the College of New Jersey until from 2015 to 2021. Coach Cicardo has been the head coach of the New Jersey Warriors junior college football team out of Jackson since 2022, which we want to touch on.
And we have that on the screen right now. We have photos of this good-looking guy that we have on today. Okay.
And he's been the head coach there since 2022. So needless to say, we are pleased to have Coach on our podcast with such an array of experiences to discuss. So without further ado, welcome to the Here We Go podcast, Coach. How you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing great, Coach. And I'm so, I'm just so honored to you guys that I've always looked up to, held up to a pedestal, especially from your days at Middletown South and stuff. We always look to you as being part of a program that, we always wanted to build our high school programs to be like. And, I'm just so honored that you two would ask me to come on here and speak.
Coach, that's wonderful, man. Thanks. I really
Yes.
appreciate you saying that. And we were all Middletown guys there for a while.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
We were Mater Dei Middletown South was the capital T, capital H, capital E.
Well, you came in at a time
to rise to be like.
You came in at a time when Middletown was rising, right? Like, in '89, that was your first year at Mater Dei. In '89, that was, our first state championship there. It was wonderful having you over there. And I know we did get some time to talk every once in a while, but, very busy being the head guy over there. Coach, you were the head guy there for 10 years.
Yes.
That's amazing.
And I'll tell you what, I look back on it, and it was such a special time, holds a special place in my heart. The people there were always incredible, unbelievable. Just the atmosphere at a small parochial school, unlike some of the bigger schools and this and that, we were like a small town program ourselves. We didn't recruit, we didn't do those things. We got who we got from, the kids that grew up at, in St. Mary's or other Catholic schools that wanted the small school atmosphere. And just let me tell you something, there's something about the people there. They are forever with me. I still get the opportunity to communicate with some of them online, and it's special.
That's awesome.
That's awesome, Coach. We want to we definitely want to spend more time on Mater Dei, but since you are the active head coach of the New Jersey Warriors, a very interesting junior college football program, we want to make sure that we give some adequate time for that, for you to really explain that to our listeners. And it's a very interesting what's going on, and you trying to give young men who might not have thought they had opportunity to play football beyond high school, to play at least maybe a few more years and compete. And even for those kids that, maybe they weren't I found this very interesting when we spoke to the other day, kids that maybe weren't starters, on their high school team, and maybe the starters went to other colleges, but they want to continue playing. And, and the junior college league is something that they can consider. So I'm going to share my screen here with everyone. And we want to put you back up here as the head man for the New Jersey Warriors. And can you tell us a little bit about the program, Coach? The floor is yours.
Absolutely. And what we've evolved to, we had a vision for it when we started in 22, and we wanted it to be a place that, especially, being a Shore guy, I love Shore football and New Jersey football. We wanted it to be a place that coaches, number one, could understand they could send their kids to us if they had no other options, or even if their options were hey, we just want to go to OCC, not spend a lot of money, not have a big student loan after college, and we're going to go play 2 years of football, go to OCC, get an associate's, and then go to a 4-year. And the whole thing was the trust factor, because I know even before I became part of the program, I was like, what is that? And but after our GM who started the program in 2017, he came and talked to me, and I gave it a lot of thought. But the one thing that was big is I said, you know what? I've been around the Shore for a long time, and I'm sure in other counties, Mercer and Middlesex and Monmouth and all counties around us, there's plenty of dudes who are 27 years old sitting on a bar stool saying they wish they had the opportunity to play college football because it was tough for them when they were younger. And now that they are older, they've matured. They've taken on responsibility of families and work and jobs and bills. Now they're going, dang, I missed that part of my life. It passed me by. I wish I had the chance. So, Coach, what we've evolved into is, and how we present the program. I don't even talk about recruiting for the program. Talk about presenting the program. I tell kids, go to a 4-year. But if not, if you are what we look to, which is 3 type of young people. One, they had a little trouble with academics and things freshman, sophomore year, and it kind of hurt them the opportunity to get to a 4-year when they got older. Number two, kids who have gone on to a 4-year and it just wasn't a fit for them, or things happened at home where they had to come home. Or number three, which we're getting a lot more now, the last 3 years we've gotten, was kids who are financially responsible. And they're like, I don't want to go to a 4-year, hold a bag for 2 years, or be on scout team for 2 years.
Right.
Where I can go to community college, not have a student loan, except for when I finish up at a 4-year, and I get to play.
Yeah.
Because, our roster, it's not that we limit it, but it's 40 to 45 is what we usually are. And everybody has to play a role. And we are going to find a role for you because we let them know we are that opportunity for you to get where you want to be. And we will do everything we can for you. And all we ask of you is that you go by our standards that we present with the Warriors and how we do things. And there's probably a lot of people out there in the college football world that look at us with, a sly look and like, what are they doing? But that's okay because we know that we adhere to ghost rules that they in college may not. We are more strict than some schools are on our academics. Our kids, they got to hold 12 credits. They got to be a full-time student. If they are not carrying that load, they can't play. We had to tell a kid, you can only practice, you can't play, when we found out they were carrying 6 credits.
Yeah.
We've had kids who finished the season with a Mr. Blutarski, you have no grade point average. And we made them sit out the spring, and we said, if you want to be part of this program, you got to do well in school. And 2 years ago, 2 of those guys came back with 3.6 on their spring transcript.
Awesome.
And then allowed to play in the fall. And we've had a number of those stories. Those 2 stand out the most. Those 2 went on, and they're now playing at 4 years. One of them got a Division II scholarship. A kid who, as you introduced this, he was a kid who didn't even start in high school. He was a backup corner. The other kid was a stud, but the one kid, so we have all type. We are here for all types, all scenarios, Coach. And we're not Last Chance U like on Netflix. What I like to say we are is we're First Chance U. We're First Chance U, y'all, because we're not there to inflate our win and loss records as coaches. We're not there to win championships. We're not there for championships. We are here because of what we said. There's so many 27-year-olds sitting on a bar stool saying, I wish I had the opportunity to play college football. And, we hope we can offer that opportunity to those.
Well, Coach, I just got to make a comment real quick. And what you're saying is, I agree with everything you're saying in regards to what our role is. The academics have to come first. We are, and I've always said this on the high school level and even with your level. And I think it gets lost a lot nowadays because football has become such a commercialized event, even down to the AYF Pop Warner level. And I never could wrap my head around that whole thing. But it's impressive what you're saying, and it's one of the reasons why we have you on and have had known you for so long is because our role, and what I believe strongly, beyond wins and losses, is to create productive members of society and holding them accountable. And I love that you said, they're not going to play if they don't have, aren't a full-time student and don't keep a certain academic standard. That's incredible. I love that.
I just want to say, listening to you 2 guys, 2 head coaches that I know, and building character, okay, and setting limits and boundaries with kids, to help build their character. It's just a wonderful thing, and there's so many coaches that do that. It's unfortunate the ones that don't, and maybe those guys will, come along. or the young guys that are out there, hopefully
Right.
they'll listen to,
Right.
two older men like
Yeah.
you,
Yeah.
and listen to your wisdom. That's what our podcast, is based on that. It's about culture, positive culture, character building, helping build young men, and having them have an experience that they're going to remember. And of course, we want to win. That's what we're doing that. Okay. But winning doesn't come first. If winning comes first, then you don't have that foundation that kids are going to have a great experience, regardless of what your win and loss record are. So it's a pleasure to be here with you two guys. My pleasure. Coach, tell us a little bit more about the New Jersey Warriors program. Where do you practice out of? How far away do kids need to live, basically, from that practice area to be able to get to practices? And tell us a little bit about practice. And we can also, we have the questionnaire. When you're ready, we can pop it up here on the screen for you.
Okay, Coach. We practice in Jackson, New Jersey. During the season, we practice at the Justice Complex a few days on. We have 2 grass fields that we split up between offense, defense, and usually, at least one night and sometimes 2 nights a week, we get on the turf stadium, which we use as our home stadium there, which is awesome. I mean, it's as being a Division III player, it's as nice as a lot of Division III stadiums that I've played at or coached at myself. And, we're very appreciative to Jackson for allowing us to be part of the community. In the spring, starting in 3 weeks, we practice at the Field of Dreams, the Jackson AYF field, which again is a up to par Division III stadium itself. And we're so thankful for the township and the Pop Warner, or the AYF program. I apologize for allowing us to do what we do there. In the spring, we have 11 practices, and we go from 6 to 8 at night. We'll be going from March 30th through April 23rd. April 23rd is our prospect night, where the people that we have presented the program to, which for some people that means recruit, but we presented our program to, they come to practice. We'll practice for about an hour and 15 minutes, cut it down. I'll talk to the prospects, then I will break them up with the assistant coaches to talk to them about, what they do during practice. And then spring will be over, and from there we'll meet in June with the incoming team, the seniors in high school that have made the decision to go to community college and play for us. We start practice in August at the Justice Complex. We practice in August and September, Tuesday through Friday night, 6 to 8 p.m. This way they got school, if they got work, whatever they got to do, they still have an opportunity to do that. And then October, we practice 3 nights a week, Wednesday through Friday. It's been very beneficial to us, where we've had a lot of success on the field in October. And to be honest, it usually takes us that long because, unlike a 4-year program where you're building culture, we're trying to build it every single year. Although it's funny, I look at the Division I NIL and the portal and all that stuff that goes on now. They're manufacturing culture consistently because they're getting so many new kids and losing kids each year. So it's funny. I said to my assistants a few years back, I was like, you know what? It's funny. Now they know how they're going through what we go through. And, especially when the coaches were getting on there and typing about their complaints and everything else about NIL and all this, the trouble building culture. Well, welcome to our world. Right. And we don't see it as a trouble. We see it as our responsibility and getting the kids, to be a part of building that culture. Our second years this year who are leaving us and going to play, 2 of them are already out of college, a 4-year. They did such a tremendous job this year, bringing in and getting the culture through to our kids, because it took a lot. And, at our meeting the other night for the spring, I let the potential 2-year guys that are going to be with us in the spring, that it's their turn now. It's their turn to show the new guys, the mid-year transfers, what it's like to be a Warrior and what our culture is and what our standards are.
Mhm.
And so by October, we cut down practice Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, because that's when in school midterms usually start. They start getting heavy in their schoolwork, and they're getting used to college life and being out of high school. And we believe that extra day will be great for them. We also do everything on Zoom. Our Monday night, we meet on Zoom in September to go over clips of the game, offense, defense, special teams. And then in October, Tuesday night, when we don't have practice, we move our meeting to that night. This gives them, basically 24 more hours once they get into school for things outside of football, because we let them know right away what they are doing, they must focus on. I told them the other night, don't be sitting in your calculus class at OCC drawing up football plays in your notebook. Make sure you're understanding the formulas you're doing. Be where your feet are. Focus on what's important. When you're at a family dinner on Sunday, you be with your dinner. You don't be worrying about or talking about football practice or anything else. You give where you are at that moment, all your attention. And when you're at football practice from 6 to 8, inside those lines, you're giving football all your attention. We play in a small conference called the Seaboard Conference, which is with Williamson College of the Trades and Thaddeus Stevens College they're both out in Pennsylvania. And we also play Division III JV teams, which I like a great deal because our guys get to go to a college campus that they may not have had the opportunity before.
Nice.
Often the head coaches come and talk to us after the game. And I'm going to tell you what, our guys know the most important thing that I hear from those coaches is not about the play on the field, but what they saw from us when we weren't playing. Just like they say, what do you do when you don't have the football?
Mm-hmm.
How did you act outside of those 4 to 6 seconds in the play? And it means a lot to us when the coaches talk about good things. We've had, it's football. We're going to have some negative experiences, but we mostly have great experiences with those D3 teams. And a lot of our kids, we played Albright this past fall, and we got a kid there right now. One of our receivers is there right now. Started in
That's great. That's great.
Nice, man.
This kid never played football in high school. This kid was a point guard for his high school basketball team, and hadn't played football since Pop Warner. And man, he just fell in love with the game, and he's very athletic, very fast, and he learned how to be a receiver. I mean, the first day he came to us, his hands were like bricks, and man, when he left us, it was he turned into a football player, and there's a lot of success stories, but there's also kids that didn't make it through.
Yeah.
We've had we've had kids that have fallen off. We have kids that make the decision not to go on. We have kids who play and they tell me at the end of the year, Coach, I got my fill. I'm not going to be sitting on that bar stool when I'm 27.
Right.
We've had kids who have come back a year later and said, Coach, we get 2 years with you. I know I took last year off, but I've been thinking about it and I really wasn't ready to give it up. Can I be back? And for them, absolutely. You have time, you're eligible, you come play for us.
Awesome.
Coach, this is so interesting. You know what I mean? Very, very interesting. I have an X's and O's question for you, but before that, I want Coach LaCava's opinion. Okay, I don't know whether you know or not, but Coach LaCava, has a reputation of being very particular with his uniforms and color placements and things like that. Coach, I'd like you to comment on what Coach Cicardo picked out for his team. What do you think about these unis?
I love them. I mean, I freaking love them. I mean, every time we put a picture up, I'm always like, look at those unis, they look awesome. And I spend a lot of time about that because it's prideful, man. Building a culture means taking every detail, making it important. And that's one of the things that fills for coaches like me, and I think for Coach Cicardo too, it fills time. Like when you're trying to build a certain culture, you can't skimp on things and make them not important. Every little thing becomes important, and the way we did it in high school was that we tried to create our team into a college-run program. And that was right down to the uniforms, to every way we handled ourselves. So, when I hear Coach talk like this, it warms my heart, because I would think every coach is like this, because it's to what you should be doing as a high school and college football coach. This is what you're supposed to do. And that's one of the things, like you mentioned, why we wanted to do this podcast. Like, to show guys, like, this is what we did and it worked. And we know there are other people out there, and we want them to share their experiences. So it really is awesome when I see teams look sharp, when they walk on the field, when they walk off the field, and what they look like. I love it. I mean, it's huge for me.
Now, Coach, we don't want you to give away any secrets, okay? Because obviously you're still coaching, but just because of the nature of your program, where you have kids coming in and coming out every year, and they may not be consistent, and you get different types of kids coming in and out. I imagine that you have to be very flexible, okay, with your offensive approach and your defensive approach year to year. Can you just comment on that a little bit? Because Greg and I obviously went through that, and I find it very interesting. How you guys react and how you respond. You have to be flexible, right?
Absolutely, Coach. And number one, I can't take credit for the uniform, the colors, or even the logo. That's Sean Kennish when he started this baby. This year, the uniforms you see in the picture, they're the gray ones. We've used them for years, but they've met their time.
Right.
From now, we're going to be going black on black.
Nice.
With a little stripe on each shoulder, and white numbers outlined by the cardinal.
Nice.
And I call it cardinal because I'm not sure if it's steel or what the red color is, but
right.
But yeah, I love the gray because it was great, because everywhere we went, it didn't matter what color the other team was wearing. Now, I let Sean know when we're going black on black. Now we got to let the opponent know. Yeah. Listen, let them know ahead of time that, because we only have one set of uniforms.
I was just going to ask you that.
Yeah. So, and number two, Coach Letts, I am not bright enough to or that savvy enough to have secrets. And you are absolutely right. We keep everything simple. We start out with a base of 3 run plays. We build into the play, especially our pass plays, something that is one part of it is able to have success about whatever defense is put up in front of us. So the quarterback doesn't have to audible. He just has to see pre-snap the front and the coverage, post-snap in the pass game, if they roll, things like that. Because what we like to do is we like to build in 1 high beater, 2 high beaters, as well as there being a man beater in there that he knows to go to if he doesn't see anybody in the mofo, middle of the field. He sees the middle of the field open. And actually been doing that, for a long time. Learned that, was fortunate to learn those things by many visits with Coach Urban Meyer. Started when he was the receiver coach at Notre Dame, and then Coach Vircillo and I, we went to visit him everywhere he was after that, except for Utah. We didn't get out there. Went to Bowling Green, his first spring there, and that's where, the first, at Notre Dame, the first thing we learned was, ISO and bubble. If number 4 or the flat player was sneaking in and was 3 yards, was only 3 yards from the last man on the line of scrimmage, go ahead and throw the bubble. If he was wide with the slot, then run your ISO, because then that took care of the 4th guy that you couldn't block. Yep. Little things like that. So, Coach, I ain't like I said, I ain't bright enough to have secrets. We got everything from somebody, and even when Coach Meyer was at Florida, Coach V and I went there and spent a week, and we came home, and Coach V finally gave in to the shotgun,
Mhm.
and decided that we would be able to do that. So we keep things as simple as possible. We try not to put a lot on number one, the offensive line. We
Mhm.
want everything simple for them. Therefore, we structure schemes within
Amazing.
the same blocking scheme up front. I mean, gap, tight zone, pin and pull. Those are our three babies, and we run jet sweep. You know, and everybody we play knows it. But it's what we do off of it. I believe I've learned over the years, it's what we do off it, and it's how we use smoke and mirrors, the different
Huh.
formations, always
Yep.
unbalanced, things like that. We don't do it as much now. But, I'm a big believer in all those things. I found in a Mater Dei library, a book written in 1957,
Holy
about
shit.
the unbalanced split T or something.
Right.
And found that in like 94 in the Mater Dei library. And thank God they knocked the building down, or else I'd still have, a library fee to bring it back there.
Yeah.
Coach, football, like you
But
talk about these old books, the old books still have relevance. I'll tell you
oh,
why.
coach,
I just watched on Netflix last night this new documentary on this female chess player, the best ever from
Yeah.
Russia. And the thing is that football's like chess. Like you can go back. The game does. The game changes a little bit, but then it changes back. Like you can go back 30 years ago, 40 years ago, and study a chess player and his strategy or her strategy, and apply it today. And so same thing with football. You know what I mean? Like there's things that guys, we might not get into for another 10 years, but all of a sudden something will pop up. And I can remember playing Toms River South. It was very interesting, because Toms River South, whether it was Chip LaBarca Sr. or his defensive coordinator, George Basso,
gosh, yeah,
they ran a 50 up defense that was in this old book that I had put up on a prior podcast. And in this defense, they had everyone covered up front, everyone covered. And the middle linebacker was in a 2-point stance, right on the heels, okay, of the two defensive tackles who were on the guards, right on the heels, okay, and they pressured every gap, and that was in an old book, okay, and they did it very successful, and I actually ran, the modifications of that too, throughout my career. So yeah, it's just interesting that you mentioned that the book, man, from '57.
yeah. Well, and that's it, coach. And football is a simple game. It's a simple game of chess.
It is.
However, the one thing that I wish chess would do is, instead of them having the mirrored pieces, that they get different pieces. Because in playing chess, you don't always have the same sized king and queen
That's right.
or pawns as the other guy has. Or you may start the game with, one rook and one bishop and 6 pawns when the other one's got a ton of them. And so getting to the defensive side, leading into answering your question with that,
Yeah.
Coach Letts, is defensively, we've gone through an odd to an even, we love the 4-2-5. However, early on, Coach, the toughest thing, even for the big guys to get, are big guys. Even Division twos, if you weigh a certain amount and you're a certain size, they're taking you. They don't care how you play in high school, they'll make you a player.
Right.
Because they need big guys. And that, has always been the biggest struggle for us. The last 2 years we've been fortunate, but we've never really had more than 5 true offensive linemen. We've been fortunate on the defensive line the last 2 years. It's been the strength of our defense, and it basically, backs up the philosophy that everything does start in the trenches with those defensive line pawns.
Oh yeah.
It does.
But I mean, we were playing an odd front. We were playing the first year with 2 guys down. We had our nose standing up in a 2-point stance, 2 yards, because he was more of a linebacker than a nose. And I got to, give all the credit to Nick Giglio, who was the first defensive coordinator when we came to this thing in 2022.
Yeah, I
And
think
he was
he's a fellow Shore
science.
Regional. I think he's a fellow
Yes.
Shore Regional graduate.
Yes, he is.
He's a
Yes,
little
he is.
younger than me, but yeah.
I think he's like an 88 graduate and went to William Patterson. And Coach Giggs, he was a mad scientist with that defense. Sometimes we were playing a 2-5-4.
Yeah.
We've been fortunate the last couple of years where we were solid with down linemen. But Coach, we are going to do what everybody, what all coaches say. And sometimes they say, yeah, it's the guys that don't win that say that stuff. You got to adapt to We need to adapt to our players. And that's why we like to take it out of our players' hands offensively about making decisions and have, especially for the quarterback, we have your answers for you. We have your answers for you. You don't have to come up with something in order to attack the defense with the play that's been called. Defensively, we look at what we have and we believe in defense first, Coach. People think I'm crazy. They're like, you are a quarterback? We like to run the ball, make the clock go, not stop the clock, keep our defense off the field. And so they can go on there. When they get their 3, they dominate, and then they're out. And then we go back on offense. And, Coach, after being at Lacey, I said, I'm never going in a huddle again.
Right.
With the Warriors, we get in a huddle, and we ain't snapping the ball in 18 seconds like,
Right.
the no huddle, hurry up, momentum. No, we're staying in that huddle, and we're burning clock, and our defensive guys are getting a little rest on the sideline before they have to go out there again. And, like I said, they're like, you are a quarterback. I love 13-6 games. I spent 10 years in the Class C North and the Class C. And those we used to be like we were the old NFC North, where it was defense and, you score in the red zone, get lucky, make a big play here and there. But I still believe and will always believe and love in the Super Bowl when it happens for the whole world to see that defense wins.
Yeah.
Offense scores, defense wins.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes great defenses score. Great defenses take pride in a 0-0 game, and they're like, let's win this thing. Let's go get a score. And if the defense is going to do that, that's awesome. But we're putting our 11 best on defense, and they're going to get after it.
Right.
Yeah,
that's
Coach,
awesome.
That's wonderful. That's music to my ears. I obviously knew this was going to be a great podcast when we started. Now it's even better. Now it's even better.
The more you talk about defense, the better it becomes for Coach.
It's good stuff. So Coach, anyone that's listening, we don't know anyone that's going to watch this on YouTube. We want to take them real briefly. We'll take them to the website here. Easy website, www.warriorsnj.com. And Coach, you want to walk people through that? I'll click on it right now. And here we're on the website. So if someone's interested, what should they do?
Sean Kennish, he does a great job with this. He puts as much information about us on there as he can, as well as the community colleges and how far they are from our practice site. Cool. And he puts on there our alumni, people who have played in the uniforms of the 4-year college that they have gone to after, again, which they may have not had the opportunity to do. We have, and he's not big into record. He tells everybody, he goes, I don't care if we win or lose. I care about what happens to you all after you leave us. That's the most important thing. How you're conducting yourself, how you're representing yourself, how you leave this program, and how you move on to the program you go to, and then what you become in society when it's all over. And,
beautiful.
And, that's what it's about.
It's beautiful.
And also on here is our questionnaire. You got the there.
I'm going to click on that right there.
Right away, Coach. I got to tell you, on Twitter and Instagram, I get kids from Alabama, Missouri, California, Texas, Illinois. We get kids from all over the country that inquire, and I have a default on my notes app on my iPhone that lets them know what we are, that we are not a college, Our players live in New Jersey, and most are 45 minutes from Jackson, New Jersey, where we practice. We attend our local community college, and that is a result of, well, a year ago, there was only one junior college football team. Now there's two. Salem Community College. Jay Corsi, the old head coach at Bowen, has started that, and I wish him all the best of luck because he's an old friend, and I hope things go great there for them.
Coach, are you playing them this year?
No, Coach, no. They again, Coach, sometimes we're seen in a different light, and we're comfortable in what the schedule that we play, and we're comfortable the level that we are. A lot of those junior colleges guys, they're D1 dudes, and they're gonna, they're promising an elevation to one of those Division I schools. Yep. And I shouldn't say that they're promising. I don't know what they're doing, but that's what they portray, and that's what they are. That's what Nassau and Lackawanna before they went to Division II, Monroe before they've gone to Division II now. Junior college is kind of dying out with some of the traditional powers, but now Salem coming in, I think Coach Cicardo is going to do a great job. And then you got Sussex up north. So you got them up north, and here we are in the middle of the state, and we will accommodate kids who, already have entertained a questionnaire from a kid in South Jersey who basically was a backup in high school and was not going to be able to see the field at Salem. Well, they've contacted us, and hopefully we're there for them. Our guys are Division II, Division III guys, and you guys, if you're listening right now, I'm not saying you're not Division I. Hopefully after 2 years you are, but our guys have been Division II and Division III guys up until now. Still, that's what our guys are. Yeah, we embrace what we are, and it's my responsibility. I don't like saying I or my, but it's my responsibility to make sure we can conduct ourselves in that way, and we understand that. And even when we get new coaches, new players, I let them. I'm truthful with them, and tell them they have to embrace who we are and what we are, and don't think we are what we're not. I will not lie. I will not promise. I do not tell them they will start, but I let them know there's a role for them somewhere. A lot of roles. Mm-hmm. They may play every special team. Yeah, and that's the bottom line. But you know what? When I coached Division III and recruited Division III, same thing. And I always believed as a recruiter or a presenter of a program that when the kids get into your program, you're not a different person than you were than the one that was helping them come into your program.
Exactly.
You be the same guy. You be that same guy on August 4th that you were on February 28th talking to them about coming into your program. You don't be a used car salesman. And just show them who you are right from the get-go, because you want them to be who they are when they get to you.
And just as importantly with that, and then what you say about the program and the culture of the program is actually what the culture of that program is. You know what I mean? Like, you don't make it up to be something it's not. And I agree with you. Being honest with these players is the most important thing, because how I see this is that you are filling a niche that these kids don't have. Like, these are forgotten players because of everyone's looking to go to Division I. And ever since the Last Chance U thing came onto Netflix, everyone sees it's a stepping stone into Division I. But it's refreshing to hear that you are telling these players up front that is not who we are, and you're being honest with them. So that's cool.
Yeah, absolutely, Coach. Wonderful, man. So in listening to you, this was great. And I've learned a lot more about what you're doing. I know Coach Cicardo has too. And I'm going to, Coach Cicardo, I'm going to put him on the spot here. Okay. Because me and him are going to come to a game next fall. We're coming. That's right. Okay. We are coming. I can't wait now to come and see and watch you guys, man. I mean, we can get some sideline passes. We know you, you know what I mean? Hopefully, hopefully we can pull that off. But for anyone, any potential football player that was listening today and heard Coach talk and liked what he had to say, you can visit the website here and fill out the questionnaire, and Coach will get in contact with you or one of his assistant coaches, and we wish you good luck.
Coach,
So,
I want
Coach,
to
if
add
I
one.
can, I'm sorry, Coach, if I could say, and
sure.
it's an interview process from the questionnaire goes in, and Mr. Kenish, that's what I tell these calls, you call him Mr. Kenish. I don't want you calling him Sean. He's Mr. Kenish to you guys. And what's going to happen is when the questionnaires are sent in, the first thing they got to do, I'll talk to them on Twitter, I'll talk to them on Instagram, I'll text with them. However, I tell them your first step is that interview with Mr. Kenish off of your questionnaire. And he's going to ask you two main questions. He's going to ask you, are you or you are intending to enroll in your community college? If you are older, and are you attending community college and have 12 full-time credits if you want to participate with us? Number two, transportation. You have the ability to get to Jackson, New Jersey for 2 months, 4 days a week, and game day. And in October, 3 days a week and game day. And the other thing is we play those conference teams on Saturdays, but we play the Division III teams on Sunday, which is interesting. And I love them. I actually love when we have those Sunday games, the JV team, because I get to watch the varsity or the next week's opponent. That's a Division III program. We get to watch them on, Division III football. You can get the video of the varsity's game.
Mhm.
And that's our scout, because we don't trade film. We don't trade film with them. We trade with our conference, but we don't trade with the D3 teams.
Right.
So,
Right.
And you guys know how important that is. So
Oh my God.
you got to do different things to get film. But that's it. They have to go through that interview with Mr. Kenish, and after those two questions, he'll get into their life. He'll get into what they're looking to. He'll get into what they want to major in, and he goes from there. And I tell our kids, he makes the big decisions.
Right.
Right.
Listen, he'll sit with kids before a game to get on their portal at school. All right, show me your credits right now. Show me where you're at. And if they miss pregame warmups, they miss it. But they got to sit there with him. We were able this year on the bus. We traveled up to Connecticut 3.5 hours for a scrimmage, and he was able to get it all done on the bus.
Incredible.
Right up to make sure that they were all in. So, like I said, we like to run it like a Division III program, a college program, the best we can with the resources that we have.
Right.
And that's it. I don't want to.
That's awesome, Coach. Awesome. Before we go on, Coach Cicardo, do you have anything that you want to say to wrap this part up?
I do, and I want to make it clear to, we wanted to give Coach an opportunity to promote this the New Jersey Warrior program, and I want the viewers to know that you, Coach Letson, and I take this very seriously. The guests that we have on, and we wouldn't have anyone on that we don't believe in and know they're men of their word. So when Coach Cicardo says what he's saying, you can believe that he's a man of his word, and it's the truth and honest.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So now, okay, we're going to switch gears, Coach, and we're going to go to your past a little bit. All right. And if you can just briefly tell us, where you grew up and, and went to school and how you started your football playing career. And then your very interesting story of being part of the inaugural football team at Lacy High School when it opened in 1981, I think, right? And that was my senior season in high school at Shore Regional. So I'm very interested to hear this. So, Coach, tell us a little bit about where you're from and how you started out in football.
Well, I'd like to say I was born and raised in Lacey, but I wasn't. I was born up in, Hackensack Hospital, Bergen County, lived in Maywood till I was a kid. Dad got transferred to Ohio for a few years, but old Italian family that we are, my mom wanted to come home. So, my grandparents had a summer home in Forkett River in Lacey Township since '58. I mean, I was down here the first week I was born, spending at least 2 weeks a summer with my grandparents, and I love Lacey Township, and my parents basically bought my grandparents' second summer home, and grew up from 6th grade on, and basically have been in Lacey besides a few times, college and in Louisiana, and living up in Leonardo for a few years while I was at Mater Dei. been in Lacey whole life. And I went to, before the high school opened up, we went to Central Regional and, was able to play sports there and was fortunate in seventh grade to make the basketball team. And not a lot of us Lacey kids did. Central was huge back then. And I mean, it's big now, but it was huge. And eighth grade, continued to play basketball. They started a baseball program. I was able to make the baseball team. A few of us made that team. And then as freshmen, played football, basketball, baseball, together with
at
our
Central. Yeah, at Central,
at
right?
Central against our old Berkeley Lords opponent and Pop Warner. We finally put together.
Coach, who's the head coach back then?
Don Gardy, Mr. Gardy,
okay,
was coach, my man. And so we found out our freshman year that, and you don't know things when you're a kid. They're building a high school. We're gonna have a new high school, and we needed, we were coming together with meetings at the new middle school that had been built. When I was in eighth grade, the seventh graders were there. When I moved up to ninth grade, those seventh graders went to Lacey as eighth graders to start the middle school. So in ninth grade, we were the only ones left. We were on split sessions. So we went to school from 12 to 5:30. 10th, 11th, and 12th went to school from 6:30 till, 11:15 or whatever it was. We'd look outside and we'd see them practicing out there. Mr. Gardy had them practicing for 6 hours. Just kidding, Mr. Gardy. I know that wasn't all the time. But it was a beautiful thing. And then we'd come in and when they started baseball, we'd come in the morning to practice. We'd come in morning, and then they had a makeshift cafeteria at Central because they didn't need one because we were on split sessions. So when Lacey was opening up, we got excited, and we had meetings and things. We were even asked to vote on the nickname for the Lions, and I wanted to share this one. And because I hope some of the old guys that ran Lacey back in the day know I feel this. I could have sworn we all voted. The colors were exactly what we wanted, but I could have sworn everybody in that room, we talked about it. We voted to be the Lacey Generals after General Lacey.
Oh,
right?
my God.
The next thing we know, in the local town newspaper, it's announced we're the Lions. And we're like, Lions?
Where'd that come from?
Everybody's the Lions.
Right.
We would have been, but maybe it was just me that wanted to be the Generals just because of but I mean, we had a cool looking logo for the General and everything. But you know what? It became Paul Pride. When Coach put that paw on the helmet.
Yeah, so I was just going to say.
At the football meeting, spring of 81, Coach painted a Hutch helmet gray and put I don't know if I should say this because of copyright, but put a Clemson paw on there.
I don't think it matters now.
It don't matter now. I'm retired. And we were like, oh.
Coach, one of the things I'll never forget about driving up to Lacy High School is the huge paw on the press box.
Oh, that was a beautiful thing.
I mean, you're just like, oh my God,
Listen, our first T-shirt was a gray T-shirt, and all it said was Lions Pride with the paw right in the middle of it.
Yeah.
And what I love things like that. I love Notre Dame having no logo on their helmet. I love Alabama having their numbers. When everybody else is getting all prettied up with different uniforms to try and jazz up their program, tradition don't change.
I'll never forget when I watched, sorry to interrupt, when I watched Penn State, when they put the names on the back, I was like, I can't watch this.
You can't.
I was like, I can't watch this. It's driving me insane.
It's I believe that, Coach, and that was the biggest trouble for me, and that's why my old players can't believe that I get on Instagram every day and try and talk about this stuff that I talk about with our team about. And because they can't be there with us in school and come sit in my office like all those years where you love it when they come to your they were at lunch and they asked to go see you on your lunch break just to talk ball or talk life. We don't have that with our guys. So Sean had in the contract, you got to be on Instagram and Twitter. I'm like, I was on LinkedIn, but I would never, ever. I didn't understand it.
Right.
But I understand why now. And
you caught on pretty well, Coach.
Thank you.
You did.
Sean says that too. He's like, well, Coach, I said you had to be on a little bit. I said, well, guess what? We're branding this dang thing, and we're going to talk about our beliefs, and we're going to talk about, the thing. We're going to represent this program. We want people to know it's about. So, and I have fun with it too.
So now you're a sophomore and Lacy High School's open. So take us from there now.
Yeah, and take us with your first meeting with Coach Vircillo.
Right.
And before you get into that, I just want to say that with Coach Vircillo, if he watches this, that I knew about him because I played at Shore Regional, and and the 1980 Shore Red Bank game. Okay, right. Red Bank had the game won, and we completed a very long pass at the end, and we, with probably a minute left, and we punched it over. We ended up winning a very close game, 15-13, I think. And there was a little brawl that broke out after that game, Coach came over and he spoke to our team, and I thought it was wonderful, and I always remembered him for that. And then, he went down to Lacey and I'm just interested I know you remember the first meeting. I know you have to.
Well, the first meeting was in the middle school gym. And I remember sitting in the bleachers and him presenting everything to us. That helmet, the paw, what we were going to represent, what that paw was going to be about. And I just, remember being a silly freshman and probably not taking in as much as I should have.
Mm-hmm.
All of us.
Mm-hmm.
And when you get older, you look back on it and you're like, and when I started coaching there, I said, that's where we're starting. And anyway, after that, we talked about our summer workout. And he explained how we were going to be working out at the middle school. And that's what we did. I remember, the working out at the middle school. I remember being scared to death because it was a different time, and the older kids, we didn't know them. As a freshman, I'll tell you what, that Central Regional locker room was, whoa. Not like today. It was, you kept your mouth shut.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, got with some of those guys, and we were still intimidated back in those days by the older kids, regardless. 1 out of 10 of us might have been able to, be cool with them. But there was still that intimidation factor. But I remember going to workouts, and eventually that started to die away a little bit because they knew you were going to have to be their teammate.
Right.
And Coach expressed that to them. And we were smaller when we opened up at Lacey than at Central.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when it began to change. The first things I remember is practice in August, where these kids who you went to school at a different time and you looked up to them because you went to watch them play on Saturday after your game on Saturday morning or at Friday night. And they started embracing you as their teammate, sometimes as your friend. And it was the first time where started understanding the idea of mentorship and things like that. So, we go out, we get out there, first game, we eventually get our first win versus Pleasantville.
Oof.
Down there. And, I always say there's a picture of Coach being held up on the shoulders of the seniors. And I always say when Coach is done, I want that as a statue when you walk to the stadium. That's the statue I want for Coach Vircillo. Him up on the shoulders of those seniors. And then another thing.
That's the first win in Lacey history right there, Pleasantville?
Yes, Pleasantville.
And were you playing, Coach?
No, I was a sophomore, and Kevin Smith was our quarterback. Great athlete. At Central. At Central, he was the kicker and a wide receiver and a defensive back as a junior. And it was tough to get on the field at Central as a junior, never mind anything else. He came over and put him at quarterback. He wasn't the quarterback his junior year. A man by the name of Jeff Musselman was the quarterback at Central.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
My man. I love Jeff.
Yeah.
And,
Good pitcher
Yep.
too.
oh,
Yeah.
pretty good.
Yeah, pretty
His
good.
brother, they moved to Lacey. His brother Greg played for us. But I love Jeff because Jeff was great, man. After he had graduated, was with these older guys, and it was Jeff would pull me aside if I saw him out at night or at a party, and he'd just talk to me like an older brother,
Mhm.
and he even in the locker room, I was fortunate. I got Mr. Gardy came to a class one time, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, pulled me out of class. I was in Spanish class, and he told the teacher, "Listen, I need this kid. Come with me." I was like, "Oh my gosh!" Both JV quarterbacks were hurt at Central, so I had to go play JV. And I'll tell you what, it was a memorable experience. But I talked to you about that Central locker room as a reward for me. As a reward, I got to dress for the Thanksgiving Day game for Southern as
Awesome.
a freshman that year, and nobody had done that since like 1970 something. But you know how older guys are going to take that, especially back then. I don't know what it was like at Shore, Coach Letts, but I was fresh bait.
Right. I'm sure.
And I'll tell you what, there were times Jeff would come over to me and he'd be like, "Craig," he'd whisper in my ear. He'd be like, "Craig, just let them do their thing. Just let them say their thing. Understand?"
Mhm.
And he was that for me for a few years. When he'd come home from college, and I had seen him in ages. And his friend Greg was a good friend of mine. But those high school football relationships that started and carried on and mostly developed at Lacey were interesting. Other things that were interesting was at Central, we were in Ocean County most of the time. We never traveled out of Ocean County. When we started in 81, we played all over the place. We played at Pleasantville. We played up at Verona,
Wow.
up north.
Wow.
We played at Buna. But the
You played
one
them.
thing I will never forget about Pleasantville, and it's not, I hope it's not taken the wrong way. At Pleasantville, we had kids chasing our bus out of town because we beat them.
Yeah.
They were so angry at us. And we were like, "Wow, this is big time."
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Coach,
Crazy.
this
know,
doesn't
we
happen
never-
anymore.
We
But
didn't
listen,
experience that in Ocean County.
yeah, listen, I played, I can remember, when I was a junior, that's the only time I took the buses, right? So I was a junior in 80 and senior in 81. And it was not uncommon, especially during our arch rivals, for stuff to be thrown in our bus at a regular basis. Like this was common. Like that, like never happens anymore.
No, it's a different world, Coach.
It is. It is.
For some things, it's a better world. People don't get that sometimes. There's some good in the world right now that wasn't when we were younger.
Right.
But anyway, getting there too at practice. When I was at Central, it was you're playing quarterback. Go over there. A lot of one-way stuff because there were so many kids on the team. When we got to Lacey, I'm practicing defense.
Right.
And I hadn't played defense in a long time. And all of a sudden, I'm playing defensive back. Where in Pop Warner, I played defensive end.
Yeah.
Because there was weight limits, and I was, under 135 pounds, but I was able to play DN. All of a sudden, I'm practicing DB, and I got no feet. And Coach reminded me of that often. So taking in the whole idea of playing offense, playing defense, learning how to hold for extra points. Coach gave us this perspective of football that we didn't get necessarily in Pop Warner or that we didn't necessarily get as a freshman. And as a sophomore, started learning about pecking order and things like that. And I'm sure that's the same everywhere, but it was new because we had gone from Central and we came to Lacey, and all of a sudden there were kids playing sports who didn't at Central. And at Central there were groups. There was, there were motorheads, and there were the jocks, and
of course,
there was the classic 80s movie groups.
Right.
Yeah.
When we got to Lacey, it was not like that. we were all Lacey students.
Right.
And we had to mix in. And all of a sudden we talk about opportunity. There was opportunity at Lacey for kids that did not or couldn't or might have been intimidated to play at Central to now play.
Right.
Which, was a great thing. But it
Mhm.
was
It's a wonderful thing when a new school opens.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm sure it was at Colts Neck too, but it was starting over.
Right.
At Central, it was, I was playing with the same guy, 7th, 8th, and 9th grade, and thought I was going to play with them all through high school. And I loved those guys.
Mm-hmm.
I had more friends in Bayville, Island Heights, Seaside Park than I had in Forkett River, than I had in Lacey. So it created a whole new friendship, a whole new teammate, and a whole new atmosphere and culture. Right. We were now Lacey. Our first pep rally. They don't do it anymore, of course, because of letters to the committee. But we had in the middle of town, in our one street light. Now there's about 30. Our one street light, an old wooden boat was used for the bonfire to burn it for our first pep rally.
That's awesome.
You burned the boat? You burned the boat up?
Burn a wooden boat.
That's awesome.
That used to sit in the state marina probably for years. And it was so great. It was joyous, I guess.
So Coach, how much of that, well, obviously all of it was contributed to Coach Vircillo. So we know you have a deep relationship with Coach. Can you share with us how that transpired and how that, grew over the years?
Absolutely. He couldn't stand me when I was a sophomore and a junior.
Right.
Then he knew I had to take the snap, and
then he liked you.
Then he started, and I bust his chops all the time.
Right.
As a junior, I split time with my buddy Scott Ward at quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
We ran the wing T. Coach liked how Scott kept his drop foot on the line when running buck sweep, and felt he did that better than me when we had to throw. He'd let Scott throw once in a while, but he put me in a lot when we had to throw the ball, and that's what it was. And I'll tell you what, it was no big deal. We won the conference that year. We were 7-3. We went to the first round of the playoffs, lost to Delsey, 14-7. I got killed in that game. A dude named Verderosa, who was ironically going to Clemson, the nose guard. I got a picture of me just releasing a screen pass, and just all I remember with the second biggest hit I ever took in my life. It was the first biggest hit till Darnell Myers from Tonga South, the heavyweight champion wrestler, hit me on the sideline so bad. I remember Mr. LaBarca, and Coach LaBarca is Mr. LaBarca to me.
Right.
And, I remember him looking down at me and going, "Craig, you okay?" And I was like, "Did I complete the pass?" And he's like, "No, son." And I had to come out because I went down. But Darnell hit me so hard, I swear, and it's from cartoons when we were kids, man. I heard boing, a brick wall. Then I saw that yellow Tweety birds going tweet, 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 tweet.
That's incredible.
That's the hardest I ever got hit, Coach. And, back in the day, that might have been a concussion. I don't know. But I came out for a play. It was the only play I missed. It's the only play I missed in my high school career. But anyway, my junior year, that was my job. I was also the personal protector on the punt. It was great to be part of that great win. And I'll never forget, though, this is something. And, in Lacey, they may be like, "Why is he talking about that?" They put up a big rectangle sign at the corner of Manchester and Haynes.
Yep, I drive by.
1982 C Conference champions Lacey football was put up on a Friday. We go into school on Monday. Somebody chopped it down.
Oh.
Somebody chopped it down.
Oh my God. Those were the days.
Not foreshadowing the future.
Yeah.
And just the fact that Coach Vircillo has been there from the buildings open.
That's incredible.
And all the things he's gone through because like any town, there's anti-football,
Hmm.
there's pro football, there's people who think they know more about football than coach. Sometimes people that learned football from coach. And, those are the frustrating things for me that we rarely saw at Central, but I guess because I was a kid. But we saw more when we became a small town high school.
Right.
And, we turned into not Mayberry, but something like it,
Hmm.
more community involvement. Because at Central, we were pushed just out of the Lacey guys.
Right.
We weren't the big shots at Lacey, But what it does is when you open up a new program, new school, and there's new people in charge. There's new sheriffs in town, and oftentimes there's too many shifts. So of course, just like all the good memories and all the great that this town has experienced from what the high school has, there's also been its things. And we're just like every other town. And the one thing that I love that Coach Vircillo was able to bring, and what I respect from him the most is, and I tell this to people, they get pissed at me, and I don't care. When you mention Lacey, outside of Lacey,
One thing they know.
they say, "Oh, Lacey football,
That's exactly right.
pretty good program."
Yep.
Yes, it's
And
true.
I mean, people get pissed at me because I'll go, they don't talk about our English department. They talk
No.
about our football team.
That's right.
And when they hear Lacey, that's the bottom line. So Lacey football, which we needed to embrace in this town, because we did it first when it started with Keith
Hmm.
in 88, 89, state championship. People started understanding it was the front porch. Football was the front porch to our town.
Right.
Coach Vircillo he knows how to brand.
Hmm.
And he taught me so much about, when I was at Mater Dei, one of the big things he told me was, well, why don't you play your non-conference games against teams you can beat?
Right. Yeah.
Eureka.
He goes, Coach, you go anywhere for a win. And I mean, there were hours and hours on the phone with him till it got to the point where I wasn't that kid. He was one eye open, 10th grade, part of 11th grade. And then he loved the fact that I went to college and played football, became a captain at my college, and then continued to coach after high school, because not a lot of us did here in Lacey.
Right.
And then in the mid 90s, I went out to visit Notre Dame. And the next year I asked him to come with me. Come on. And from there we traveled everywhere to clinics and everything else. And I've just been a sponge around him for years.
That's awesome.
And I'd go to his house. My wife knew I wasn't coming home till 2 a.m., 3 a.m. in the morning, and it would just be ball talk, And I remember going over his house one time. Keith was there. It was when I first came back from McNeese, and Keith was playing a game with him. And I saw Keith being able to bust Coach V's chops. And I'm going, what the heck? I could never do that. And Keith was Keith.
Coach, share who you mean, Keith, so the audience knows. Yeah.
Keith Elias, Princeton.
Yep.
The names where streets are named after him.
And the Giants. Yep.
Indianapolis Colts.
Yeah.
The tailback of the 88 and 89 state championship teams.
The player who single-handedly beat us in the all-shore game.
Yes.
I was his defensive coordinator.
Yep.
Coach, when they're walking out, you got people at the fence going, hey, Elias, you ain't in the B South anymore.
Oh, my God.
I'll never forget that. I'm looking at those people like, are you out of your mind?
They have no clue.
You ever
No
see
clue.
this
I just want to state it for the record. We had nothing. The Monmouth staff had nothing to do with that. You know what I mean?
Wasn't us.
And we did our best to, it was a 22-21 game. And, at the end of the day, we couldn't stop him.
Couldn't stop him.
And he was that type of guy. You know what I mean? You know,
the type of guy he was, I learned from that day when I went to coaches and I saw him able to bust coach's chops and coach put a little smirk on his face.
Mhm.
Or if that was me, I would have got a finger pointed at me in a lesson.
Right.
He would have told me about Chris Rose from Red Bank and how he was this and that, went to Stanford.
Right.
And Chris Rose, if you hear this, you were one of my guys up on the pedestal. Coach V made sure of it. And I also learned something from Keith when I was subbing at Lacey when I was the football coach, when I was the baseball coach at Mater Dei. I subbed for a gym class, and we were playing speedball, which is a famous Lacey game. Some people would call it handball or something. And Keith was playing that speedball game with the same competitiveness he played on the football field.
That's why he made
anybody in gym class not playing up to his standard.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, they gave up a goal, and Keith was like, "Come on, let's go.
Yeah.
What are we doing here?" And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this is phys ed class.
Right.
That is why. That answered it for me. And if anybody had a question why, that was the answer of why, who he was, and why he was, and who he is, and why he is. Just because of that." And I'll tell you what, later on, as a head coach, when we started playing games on a Wednesday, we'd lift Monday, Thursday, same lifts, same agilities. Tuesday, Friday, same lifts, same agilities. Wednesday was game day. We didn't lift, we didn't run, we didn't do any of that stuff. We competed.
Mm-hmm.
We either played speedball in the gym, or we either played 3-on-3 basketball, taking turns, winner stays on. Our best teams at Lacey and Pinelands, our best teams were the teams that were most competitive on Wednesday.
Right. I agree.
I knew in February how we were going to be in the fall by how we competed in February.
It's a great experiment.
I mean, and these Lacey, these lessons I learned, and coach wanted me to come coach with him. And I just felt so strongly about Mater Dei, and that was my responsibility. Coach Vircillo calls Lacey his Green Bay.
Mm-hmm.
We all have our Green Bay. Mater Dei was my Green Bay. I should say our Green Bay, because Mater Dei, and I don't like our team using the word family. I think that has to be earned. You just can't go out there and break on family. You know each other for days.
Well, Coach, we want to spend a significant amount of time on Mater Dei. It's one of the things we really want to talk about.
Okay,
but we're gonna segue into that now. But is there anything that you'd like to say? Moving out of Lacey and in your college career, if you want to say anything briefly about your college career at FDU, let the audience know that's where you went and you played, and before we segue into Mater Dei.
Okay. Well, I was fortunate where Coach V helped me. I went to the University of Pittsburgh my first year because I thought I could be Dan Marino. Boy, was I so wrong. I was at a satellite campus, Pitt Bradford, and the AD was trying to help me get down there in the spring to be able to walk on, and they said, "No, you got to finish where you are." So I came home and went FDU, and Coach V helped me, took me down to a college night, and me and two of my friends visited FDU again. I had met Coach Clicker the year before, and I went there. And when I got to FDU, so anyway, it was all, it's all Lacey. When I got to FDU, I was the 8th string quarterback, and there was only 3 of us.
That was good, Coach. That was good.
Thank you. And,
that was good.
And I remember how fast the game was after missing a year. Oh, my gosh. It ain't high school football.
Right.
Yeah.
I remember, silly me, no mouthpiece, no chin strap on. I go to run option as the scout team quarterback my first day in full pads. And I will never forget the defensive end's top of his helmet hitting me under the chin, not as hard as Darnell Myers. Bit my tongue, bleeding out of my tongue. That hit was so savage, but it was awesome because I said, "You're not in high school anymore, kid."
Right.
And that's when I started to understand the speed of the game, and you needed to use your eyes, and you had to have a better mental idea about what was going on. So we get into the first game. I'm the eighth string quarterback still. Well, I shouldn't say that. I get into our scrimmage versus St. Peter's. Coach Lacey talked about brawls. I'm about ready to go in for the last part of the scrimmage. Our defense was rugged and tough at FDU. They carried us the whole time I was there. And we get to a brawl with St. Peter's. They call it because it's just a scrimmage. And I remember throwing the ball down on the ground, and Coach Mosca, Rich Mosca, of
my high school coach.
There you go.
Yeah.
And he looks at me, he goes, "Son."
Yeah.
He goes, "That's not how you handle it. You were about to things are gonna happen. You need to handle that better, son." I said, "I got it."
Coach
Right?
Mosca.
All I did was threw the ball on the ground. He knew, I wasn't throwing it down to bounce it up to myself like talented quarterbacks can do.
Right.
So, we go into the first game, nothing. The second game, the starter, coach isn't happy with the starter. He puts the second string quarterback in, who was they were both real close friends of mine. And he finishes the game, and he starts the third game of the year. Third game of the year, he breaks his collarbone.
Oh,
Mid-third quarter versus Marist up at Poughkeepsie. And I go in, and I'm not going to lie. I knew the read. I knew the trigger, which was the high safety for post dig. Old-fashioned post, tight end drag. The inside receiver to the other side had the out, and that side receiver ran the dig. Post dig. I dropped back 5 steps. As soon as that free safety moved, which is how we teach it.
Yeah.
As soon as that free safety took the post, I hit the dig. Plus, I loved the receiver who ran the dig. He was my buddy. His name's Matt Comey. Loved that guy. He allowed me to be – any success I had was because of him and that offensive line. And just started completing it. We didn't win the game. But I drove up there on the van with my legs underneath the punting net in the back of it. As you know, I was like an extra that they brought to the game, and he ended up putting me in. And after that, I made 24 straight starts.
Awesome.
We ended that year as the first winning program in FDU history. We went 5-4.
Nice, man.
My first start, we played Wilkes. Coach Mosca taught me 322 was an audible to the fade when they were playing cover 2. And because Matty was such a good receiver, and I was lucky because I threw with my eyes closed, I was able to throw the ball in the hole as deep as I could, 18 yards from the line of scrimmage, and put it in there to Matt, and was able to carry out the scheme that Coach Mosca wanted, and he kept me there, and we were able to win the season. I was fortunate. I was the rookie of the year that year and all those things, and then came back year two, fighting for my life again.
Yep.
That's college quarterback, and that's what I tell our quarterbacks: fighting for my life to where we lose our first 2 games. Third game of the year, Moss goes, "All right, you're both taking a series, each one at a time. The first one that scores starts the rest of the season."
Holy crap, Coach Mosca, baby!
Oh my gosh, I got so lucky that John Hogarty, our stud running back, busted off a 44-yard touchdown run. So I started the rest of the season.
That's awesome.
Oh, man.
And then after that season, I was going into my senior year. I was voted the offensive captain for the third year, and we started out 5-0, we started out 4-0, and then lost to Swarthmore. We came back with 43 seconds left, threw a touchdown in the corner of the end zone to Kami, and we were able to go ahead, and then they came back and they scored and beat us. We ended up 4-1. We ended up that season 5-4 too. So, but that was basically it for me. But I'll tell you what, I look back and I was fortunate. I was very fortunate because I wasn't that very good. I was just, you know what though?
Coach, stop, Coach.
I've been saying that for 35 years.
Stop.
I am Coach LaCava because I told Coach Vircillo when those videos you said he put on YouTube came out, I said, "Coach, you were so in my dang head that I was slow and not strong enough that I really thought I stunk. But I watched those videos, Coach, and dang it. No, I did
it. I'm pretty good.
But I like the narrative that I was horrible.
Yeah,
I was lucky.
narrative.
And that I was lucky to be where I was. And I was always fortunate. And I always was fortunate to have great teammates at FDU, was fortunate to have a great defense. And probably the greatest compliment I ever got in college was not about anything, not about the winning season, not about touchdowns thrown, not about none about any of that. It was when our defensive coordinator Al Cluck, who I just respect the heck out of, the man's a genius. He came up to me after one game, and he looked at me. I'm bloodied and a mess, but I loved that. I thought that meant you played football that day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And he looked at me. He goes, "You." He goes, "You're blood and guts." And he walked away from me. And I'll tell you what, that stayed with me, because even if I wasn't, I knew I had to be the rest of my life.
Right.
So those are the things that stay with you, man.
Yes.
You know, I can remember my defensive coordinator in high school said something to me, and I got to thank him, and he's passed away since. When we saw him in 2018 or 2019, because our 81 team got into the Hall of Fame for sure regional, and Lou Givler was the defensive coordinator, and we had played Red Bank, and I hurt my shoulder, either on kickoff or something, you know what I mean, and it was a big impact to hurt my shoulder. So we were very happy. It was our last tough game of the season. It was week 5. And, that was our really last tough game, until the playoffs. So we were pretty happy. If I went into the office, the coaches were pretty happy. And I just said, I went in and they said, "You okay?" I'm like, my shoulder, is really, it's hurting a lot when I raise it up by my head. So first Coach Gibler says, "Well, don't do that." You know what I mean? Don't raise it above your head, right. And then he says, "That's what you get for playing. That's what you get for playing like a 180 pounder, like when you're 150 pounder."
There you go.
Right.
Yep.
And that stuck with me because I never saw myself that way, but they saw me that way.
Yeah. That's huge.
Yeah.
Coaches got to understand. Coaches got to understand, even if they don't mean to say it to you for the rest of your life, they are.
Right.
Yeah.
They got to be cognizant of that. One last thing about college, another lesson that I got was from my dear friend who actually coached the D-line for us for a couple of years. I love him to death. I could never throw the ball over the flat in practice in 7-on-7 versus him. He was an All-American defensive end for us, Frank Illage. I'll never forget after my last year playing, he was the defensive captain. I was the offensive captain. I'm walking back to my room with 3 of my friends, 3 teammates from the CAF, and Frank's walking up with, I think he was with Kenny Martin and Virez, and he stops me because the headline that morning of our opening game versus Jersey City State was Cicardo throws for 1 and runs for 1 as Jersey Devils defeat Jersey City State 17-7. And that's what they talked about in the article. And and if he's sitting right here, I tell that story to people that meet him for the first time. And he just smirks. He stopped me like this. Stopped me, with his hand like this.
Yeah.
Points at me and he goes, "Remember something. When we win, it's because of us, the defense coach. When we lose, it's because of you."
That's awesome.
Coach,
That's
I had humility put into me by people around me. It's not, it ain't my own. I feel fortunate that they say the world humbles you. The people that I love humbled me.
Yeah, Coach, we need more of that. That's the issue that I have
and
today.
I got to, just got to know you a little bit better here today and your experiences. And, when we prep for this and talking about your college football coaching career as well, and the different stops you've been at, like, Coach, you've had a wonderful football life, man.
Yeah.
You have had a wonderful football life.
I appreciate it, and I smile, Coach. You know what I tell people? I am blessed from above. I say this, and I was absolutely not the level of athlete or student that could earn one, but I've gone through life on scholarship.
Mm-hmm.
I tell people, and it ain't the Scully they're thinking about or the NIL they're thinking about.
That's a good analogy.
Because it had nothing to do with money.
Good metaphor.
Right.
I started in Mater Dei at 18.5. The 1,500 to be the HC. It had nothing to do with money.
Right.
I've been so fortunate to go through life on scholarship and develop relationships with some of the greatest people that have walked this earth that you won't read about in a history book or see on NFL films or on ESPN. But, for a lot of people, when you embrace that about yourself and what you are and who you are and your place in this world, that's dang good enough. You know what I mean?
Well, I can say confidently, you're that person to many of your players too, Coach. Your ex-players, you're that guy. It's obvious. It's obvious.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And
we love them all. Coach, so we're a little strapped for time, and there's a lot that we'd like to get to. So we just want to tell the audience that we want to focus on your 2 high school stops. Okay, with the bulk of the remainder of the time. But Coach, which I didn't know, when he got out of college, he went to McNeese State as a GA and a volunteer coach for a year. And then when there was a coaching change, that's when he came back to New Jersey and got to Mater Dei. But Coach has also been, as Coach Cicardo said initially in the opening, at the Division III level at Kean and the College of New Jersey, and was at the College of New Jersey for a significant time period, right, Coach, from 2015 to 2021. So, you have a lot of experience there. Maybe we'll get to those, but we're really interested in
high school.
In high school, and your stops at Mater Dei and Pinelands, because they were significant stops, So Coach Cicardo, where do you think we should start with Coach Cicardo at Mater Dei?
Well, listen, I mean, the one, again, like I had mentioned before, it's such a similar path with going to small schools with, I don't like using the word inferior talent because it wasn't inferior talent. It was just a different atmosphere. Like
That's the word, Coach. Different talent.
It was different. It was different talent. Yeah. So we want to hear your experiences because it does give justification to what we say about our Allentown experience. So we want to know the challenges that you faced at Mater Dei, and I'm sure, probably shared 90% of those challenges. But I want our audience to understand that it's not. There are schools like the Mater Deis and the Allentowns out there, and there are coaches busting their butts players working as hard as they can. And still we had limitations on the wins, but the culture and the relationships and the experiences were positive. So give us some of your perspective on that.
Well, first of all, Mater Dei, you said I was 24 years old. And, I think I mentioned before that, I don't know much now, but I thought I knew more then when I was 24 years old.
Right.
And I was probably my biggest challenge, learning how to be a head coach.
Right.
I haven't really worked in one system before after being a player.
Right.
I worked for a great coach, Sonny Jackson, down at McNeese, and another coach for a few months, Bobby Kiesler, big names down in the South. But when I got to Mater Dei, I was that quarterback that I talked about there. Like, you're a quarterback? You like defensive games?
Right.
What I had to learn at Mater Dei was, number one, you better be able to stop people, and you better be able to score when you get the opportunity. That's how you win. So I would say, more so than the kids, I was my biggest challenge.
Right.
Learning on the job and not having that mentor coach that I worked for, like John Andel, or Keith Camafora,
Right.
or Camerano, or even working for Coach Vircillo. I hadn't. So I had to understand that. And I was very fortunate, got some enthusiastic coaches, assistant coaches.
Who were they? Who were they year one, Coach? Who were your assistants in year one?
Coach Bill Duffy, who had played up at Fordham Prep for, oh my gosh, Coach, it's so long ago. He went to school with Coach Paterno's brother.
Oh.
He worked Joe Namath's camp every year.
Wow.
You might be familiar with that.
Yeah.
But he was where, he was from that time of Coach Lombardi, Coach Paterno, guys like that.
Mm-hmm.
And he was an older gentleman who retired to Tom's River. He was a great help in keeping me calm as an idiot young coach. And Tommy Bender, who was a Mater Dei graduate, was our defense coordinator. He became the AD the next year. And then Rick McGovern was our offensive line coach, and had a gentleman by the name of Frank Slover, who played at St. John Vianney. My friend Kevin Wizerak, who played with at FDU, who's a Woodbridge guy who ended up coaching at FDU and coaching at Colonia and coaching for years. These were all guys that were so invested, and Ricky and Tom were so invested in Mater Dei because they had played. As a matter of fact, they beat me in senior year at Mater Dei when I was a senior at Lacey.
Wow.
And they were great. They were so supportive, and we didn't have a lot of players, but what we got from our guys, the bulk of our guys, the ones you could count on, is they taught us how to coach because we were young. Those guys, Ricky and Tommy, they were 24 years old too. Wiz was younger.
Right.
And we began to learn from them about what we needed to do better as coaches for them.
Right.
So, especially after that first year, I know personally, to the grind. Everything else went into the background.
Yep.
Except for my wife.
Yeah.
And
I get it.
It was all football. And the next year, we said we're taking them to camp. We went to Camp Green Lane in Pennsylvania. We put 24 on the bus. Well, after that experience, we came home. They all went flying off the bus into the cars of their parents, drove off. First day of official practice in August, there was only 16, 17 that went on that trip to Camp Green Lane.
Wow.
So Coach,
we got some more players.
What was
that first season with 17 guys playing against Keansburg?
Amazing.
But I will say, I was fortunate to get to know Coach Kaboo from scrimmaging them for a couple of years, and he taught me a big lesson. And he said to me, "Hey, first year, it's going to stink. Second year, it's worse. Third year, things will start changing." And the third year it did.
Right.
And that's when always been like this, even at Lacey. When I stopped coaching at Lacey and left for TCNJ, we had maybe 55 guys at Lacey on that last grade team. The minute I was gone, there was 85 kids in the program. But because, like we said earlier in this, we're not going to lie to you. We're going to tell you this is the toughest thing you're going to do in your life.
Right.
And tough by not, puking in garbage cans out there where you're throwing up from conditioning. Mentally.
Right.
And doing the right thing. And now I use the term live football. You live football. You just don't John Gruden says, "You love football."
Yeah, right.
We say you live football. Because living football is doing right in the classroom, doing right in the community, doing right with your family, doing right with everything. Doing right is living the game, because without doing that, you can't have the game.
Yeah.
Lose the game somehow, and you'll let your people, your teammates, your coaches, you'll let everybody down, but mostly yourself if you ain't living the game,
Yeah.
not always between the lines.
It's such a hard, difficult. It's Geico. I'm sorry.
Well, no, it's okay. I roll, guys.
That's all right, Coach. Listen,
the guys at Mater Dei that third year, and I didn't even know the term yet. It just happened because that's how things happen. You don't plan.
I know.
They just happen.
Yep.
They lived. They did everything that we wanted from our program.
Right.
Sorry.
Saying that, Coach, okay, and having, let me ask you a question.
Yes.
Can you remember at the year that you had the most kids, how many kids was that?
Oh, gosh. Even at Mater Dei, that team that, we
just a guess.
In the state finals, 36.
Wow. 36, that was your most.
Yeah.
Okay, so what was your least ballpark?
That's 17 at Kean. That's 17 at Keansburg.
17.
Thanksgiving.
So does anything come to mind? And it might not. Okay, because of the numbers, anything come to mind? Something that you had to do that just sticks out, like because of the numbers, we had to do this. I had to put Johnny, who was a quarterback, in a defensive tackle for this game. You know what I mean? Or does something stick out with how the numbers resulted or caused you to take certain measures to give your kids a better shot?
Well, Coach, you said it. I don't want to say, I won't say any names, but we lost one. If we lose one guard, we got to put in a 135-pound kid.
Yep.
Who, we got a dirt spot on the field that week in practice. He's sitting there with his arms crossed like this with those old forearm pads that we talked about another time.
That's right.
And, he's just sitting there writing words with his big toe and his cleats in the dirt, not paying attention to what's going on when you turn around. And we had to put him in at guard.
Yep.
And I love the kid. This was when he was young. I love the kid because then he learned.
Right.
When you lose your quarterback and your backup is a sophomore who never played football before, runs a 5.7 40, and that next year comes to your house every Monday night with a spiral notebook and a pencil. Your baby kid is in a bouncer or whatever it is, and you're watching film with him, and he's writing down every hash, down and distance, formation, motion, and the play into his notebook to start learning how to watch film.
Mm-hmm.
After you had to put him in, you lose that quarterback, and you need to win the next game to get into the state playoffs. And then you got to play this other kid who never played a varsity game in his life, but then goes on to be a pretty good quarterback after that.
Right.
Just like the guard you had to put in, just like that, situation where, and it's not like Hoosiers where Gene Hackman says, my team's on the court when they have four guys. We didn't have to do that, but you knew what you were hiding, and so did the people across the way.
Right.
But I'm going to say that every time we were put into a situation like that, it helped that kid.
Right.
It may have hurt that situation in that moment, but it often helped that kid's future. That's one of the biggest things that comes to mind. Coach, I talk about how the off season, you can tell how the season's going to be in the fall. I remember then the following year we went to the state playoffs. We lost to St. Mary's Rutherford, and we had a really good junior class that year. And then came the off season, and I guess they thought they were going to be better than they were, and all kinds of things happened.
Right.
One kid wasn't voted captain, thought he should have been captain, became trouble during the year. And one kid had a girlfriend, and she was messing with his mind, and he couldn't handle that. You guys know this.
My God.
She came driving by with a car, waved at him with another guy. He dropped his stuff on the practice field and goes sprinting out there, and I had to go sprinting after him, and we couldn't practice again because our backup quarterback was a second string corner. And just these little things. And a couple of them, I got called. I became the AD that year. And no, I was the AD for 2 years at that point. And got a call from Keansburg that these guys were causing a ruckus in the parking lot. And I'm like, what? These guys were like angels. when they were the juniors on the football team, I go, and that's when I learned. I'm like, all right, it's going to get straight as we go on. We're going to sit in my office. We're going to talk, and it's going to be taken care of.
Right.
This, I was 6 years coach. And coach, that team was probably better than the team that made the state playoffs the year before.
Right.
But all the little stuff that happened.
Distractions.
And boom. Did not have as good a season as we had the year before.
Dude.
And what I learned, coach, before that happens on its own, challenge it. Before it happens on its own, and I'll say this, working for Coach Dan Garrett up at Kean, he had a saying, and like, I don't like to cuss or anything. I hope this isn't a cuss, but he'd be like, he'd say to the team, and he'd say to the staff, don't piss off the bus. Don't piss off the bus. And what that meant was, one thing, you want to tell your team, you want to give your team standards that covers everything.
Right.
And where that came from was a player walked off the team bus one time when he was an assistant, and the guy started, unzipped his pants and peed outside the team bus in the parking lot. And that's where the term don't piss off the, you know what I mean? And don't piss off the bus.
I think
and just those things, that they're not living football.
Right.
Teams that live football win championships.
And it perpetuates itself.
Yes, you see it on every level.
Well, it's funny because I remember the hardest thing, one of the most mentally draining thing for me as a young head coach, and even when I was coaching all the time, was that you always had to predict what could happen and try to cut it off at the pass, especially with teenage kids.
Yes.
You had to predict, well, this could like this. I saw this little sign of something. I can't wait for it to get bigger. I got to jump on that right now and nip that in the bud. But I think one of the best things for coaches is that when you come in early and you're trying to create a culture, when that culture sustains itself, which happened to us at Allentown and happened to us at Colts Neck, when it sustains itself, then you're doing your job as a head coach.
Right.
We
like to tell the Warriors, and again, something we learned at Pinelands with that group that did make the state playoffs was culture is annual. Culture is yearly. Culture is about the people that maintain the culture.
Correct.
The players, not the coaches, the players dictate culture. The players are responsible for culture. We tell our guys, we set the table.
Right. I was just going to say that.
And we don't use that term. Let's eat. I know teams use that before a game. Let's eat. No, I don't. I'm not into those cool things.
No, me neither.
But I tell them, we're setting a table for you. We're setting a table for you, and you're going to eat what is for dinner that night. You're not getting a special dinner.
Right.
So, Coach Cicardo, I'm going to allow Coach Cicardo to tell a little story here that you're going to like, okay, about culture and about when you come into the program and your first year and you start laying that culture down and developing it, and all your assistant coaches have to be on the same page, okay? And if they're not, there's going to be an issue. So, Coach, I'm sure you two are as well, Coach Cicardo. Like all the coaches have to come dressed in a certain way to game day. And, and anybody that goes outside the lines, okay, it better not be too much. Otherwise, it's going to cause an issue, right? So, Coach Cicardo, why don't you just, we're not going to use any names. But
this wasn't the only story, but this was a big one because it used to be just the players that I had to deal with. And one of my huge non-negotiables with my teams were no one is going to make themselves look different or stand out from the rest of the team. They're just not going to do it with what they wear, how they act. That was not even negotiable. And that was told to the kids from day one that's not how we do things. Now, looking back on it, in retrospect, I probably was a little too strict, but it's the only way I knew, and it was the only way I was going to do it because we wanted the kids all walking in the same direction, the same line. So they used to get the whole spiel before the first practice in the summer, before the first game, especially about what they're going to wear, coaches too. I would have the same conversation with the coaches privately. This is what we're wearing. This is what, how this is going to work. So the first freaking game, we're in the classroom in pregame, and a holdover coach from the prior staff, which I was a part of as an assistant, but he walks in, I'm sitting at the desk, the whole team's in front of me, ready to address the team. He walks in with unlaced up work boots on, the old Timberland, that tan work boot,
I'm picturing it.
high boots, in shorts. He was in shorts with high unlaced work boots. I'm sitting right. I turn to him and I look at him, my coach. I said, no, this is what we're going to wear, and you're coming in work boots. And he looks at me like I was crazy. I said, Coach, go home and change, or you're not going to be on the sideline. And he stood there. Now I'm doing this in front of the whole team.
Whole team.
He stood there shocked. Needless to say, he did that, but then I didn't have him back the next year. But that was like culture stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And what I was asking you before was, when you come in as a new coach, you have your own idea of what the culture is going to be, right? So, like you said, the first year is the hardest. It's hard. Second year is hardest, but the first year is hard because you have to also create a new culture, And that was just one of those things that was like, this is what I'm getting into here. Like the coaches aren't even going to do it. Like this coach is not going to do what I ask him to do. And Tommy loves telling this story. To me, it was just normal. But I guess for like people witnessing it, it was shocking.
Yeah.
Well, the kids were in shock.
Yeah.
The kids were in shock.
Yeah.
I mean, right then they knew who was in charge.
Right.
They knew who was in charge.
Yeah.
Because not it was a free for all before we got there.
Right.
You know what I mean? Free for all.
Yeah.
So but really interesting. So, Coach, we want to if you can just wrap up Mater Dei, and I know that your tenure there brought you to the state final in your final season, and then you ended up at Pinelands. So if you could tell us, pick us up there and how you came about taking the Pinelands job and work us into Pinelands.
Well, first with working through the years at Mater Dei, there was a group that came through. There was always special kids from classes, and I'll tell you what. 3 of our old players from the second half, after 95, are very successful coaches in the short conference right now. John Tierney's at Pinelands. Yep. John Corneliuson, the offensive coordinator at Rumson.
Yep.
And Noel Kavanaugh at Homedale.
Yep.
And, I love those guys as I love all of our guys that played at Mater Dei.
Right.
Kevin Smith, longtime defense coordinator, offense coordinator at Barnegat. I mean, I can go on, and if I'm leaving any of y'all out, I apologize if you're listening. But even some of those guys coaching their young kids right now, and I know how they're coaching them.
Right.
And,
it's rewarding. It's rewarding to see it.
It was just a special place. Once you got to that number where you knew that they were all in, there wasn't people on the fence anymore. Right. There was no, coaches put people on the good side of the fence, on the fence, and on the side that, man, if you can get them to sit on the fence, you succeed with them.
Right.
At Mater Dei, our guys were all in.
Mm-hmm.
But we became that throughout the athletic department. If we were fortunate to have, and we didn't, no one would have cut a sign down.
Right.
If we won a state championship there, because we rooted for each other. At practice, Mater Dei, we would run over to the girls' soccer game on the other side of the school and go cheer them on for part of the half.
Yeah.
And then run back to practice. They would be at our games on Saturday.
Right.
The coaches, we all were rooting for each other. And you all were public schools, and sometimes there's, not animosity, but you could tell, when, coaches that come up to you, they don't congratulate you when you win, But when you lose, they say, "Oh, I heard you play
Yeah.
well." You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
But anyway, that's neither here nor there. That's another thing. We had it going on at Mater Dei there toward the end. And that, again, is like we say, the players develop culture.
Right.
Everybody, teachers, coaches, and everybody involved in the school were behind everything together.
Mhm.
And, again, Coach Urban Meyer, he always says he wants the dudes on the training table that are scooping food to be saying the same things to the players as the coaching staff is.
Right.
So he talks to them and he tells them the language they speak.
Yeah.
Probably the hardest thing at a public school to do. But at Mater Dei, we were able to do that. And again, I say going through life on scholarship, I was fortunate to be the AD for the last 6 years there. And I think that helped a great deal. I was very cognizant of making sure every sport knew they were more important than football.
Mm-hmm.
Because football was going to do what they needed to do and they were going to not get anything extra. But you were, if you needed it, because we didn't.
Right.
Just like the philosophy that I learned there. Hey, you don't got lights? Put your sneakers on, get in the parking lot, have the kids turn on their headlights. That's what we did.
Mm-hmm.
We had a father call one time that said, "Coach, the parents, they're waiting an extra 20 minutes, for them to get out of practice," where I said, "Hey, well, you tell the parents I apologize, but we're going to get done what we got to get done."
Right.
And granted, it was 90 through 2000, so you could do that a little easier.
Yeah.
But it was great, and it was a great parent, too. It was like the spokesperson for the parents, like, "Oh, my gosh, what are they doing? They're going 20 minutes over." But anyway, we would do for each other. And, I did, as an AD, did make sure that we took very good care of the other sports and that those sports knew that we were not going to be special. As we told our players, yeah, we wear our jerseys on Friday, but we don't walk around here with our chests out.
Right.
Because we're going to the state playoffs.
Special treatment.
We're in school.
Right.
We're a Mater Dei student.
Mm-hmm.
211, we're a football player.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no specialness outside of the time you are here in the locker room to the time you're on the field to being a player.
Agreed.
But what you need to do is you need to carry yourself like that when you're away from here. And not look at me, but what can I do for you?
Right.
To the others that they are around.
Right.
And that was just it. When you are in a position of, you could be bigger than you are, that's when you need to serve everyone around you. And when you say serve, not serve them dinner, but do the things that are appropriate, like respect. And
right.
Respecting others is having respect for yourself and dignity. And those things at Mater Dei were what we built upon. And I found that when players bought into that, whether it's a parochial school or a public school, that's how things worked. I read a book about the 300 Spartans and fire at the gates. And, in 95, and I went around and I videoed or I photocopied some quotes from it and put them up in the hallways of Mater Dei. And it's funny. I think I spelled one word wrong and somebody crossed it out with a red marker and put in the right letters.
Yeah.
But started creating it that way so they would understand that. And what we had to do is, as opposed to that paw at Lacey, where that's all we had to do, the paw.
Mm-hmm.
New York Yankees, NY in the hat, the golden helmet. And what's helping me here with the Warriors is knowing at Mater Dei we had to do more. We made the crossed MD logo like Notre Dame. We wanted to be known just for that.
Mm-hmm.
We wanted to stand on something. And the group that really brought us to that state final, they made it epic. They bought into Braveheart.
Right.
the music we played, the bagpipes we played, to the point where Sean DeRosa went and secretly did it without me knowing. The team knew it. He knew it. They did it. Keyport would come up and out and spike the ground. They'd spike the ground, meaning we're at war. That was, the Native American sign that we were at war. They'd come out and they'd spike an opponent's 50-yard line.
Yeah, we remember that.
Yeah.
Well, they did that. Our players opened up, and here comes a dude in a kilt playing the bagpipes.
No way.
That's when we did that. That meant Mater Dei was at war.
Right.
And unfortunately, we lost that game 29-22 when a transfer to Keyport got his eligibility that day. He came from East Orange, and he ran a kickoff return back against us to tie the game, and they won it in the fourth quarter. But anyway,
we had a common opponent that year, Coach. We played them too.
But gosh,
so that group took you to the state final.
Yes, and I always let them know that if I was a better coach, we wouldn't have lost that game 6-0, and they would have, been able to walk around or keep that ring in their top drawer of their end table for the rest of their life.
Well, Coach, real briefly before we just move on to Pinelands as we're wrapping up, can you just sum that game up? Like, so what was the theme of the game? Like, so you lost 6-0. Like, what type of game was it?
Well, we're going to play today. And St. Joe's, that started them on a string of 13 consecutive championships. I love Coach Cicardo, their coach. They were our standard, St. Joe's. They beat us in 97, 55-0 down there.
Wow. They were legit.
55-0 down there 2 years before.
Yep.
We were building that program from when they were sophomores to be and to beat. That became our standard in the weight room, everywhere. And we went out there. Coach Cicardo, he likes to make me feel bad. He doesn't like to make me feel bad. He thinks he's being nice to me when he says, Coach, you were the better team. We were so scared that day.
Yeah, right.
Coach Cicardo. I'm like, yeah, I know we were, Coach. It's my fault. I stink. And it was defense. And our great running back, John Ellison, he'd often break through on trap or belly. And when he got to second level, he was gone. But St. Joe's was a higher level defense that against the teams we played, it couldn't happen. But like, even when you step up to college, you see the difference in high school. Their free safety can make a shoestring tackle.
Right.
Where, kids in the Class C, not as much.
That's that fine line. That's the fine line, man.
Yes. John Ellison, they were able to tackle our best when he normally would have been gone.
Right. So that's not coaching. So just to give you a little props here, Coach.
But they got us here.
Right.
Yeah. We played the 4-3. We learned it from Coach Cahill at Manasquan, who I love. His wife was a phys ed teacher, old student in Mater Dei for years. His mother-in-law was our cafeteria lady. Love the family. Coach Cahill, I talked to them every winter, him and Coach Caboot, and we played their 4-3. And in the 4-3, when someone goes to the flat, the drop down safety, he committed with them and stayed with them. If there was nobody there, the tight end was his key, and he would then sink and pass it off if he went to the post, but would then get his eyes on someone coming across. Mm-hmm. They ran waggle throwback to the running back, who normally blocks on waggle. He took off on a rail.
Yep.
We got caught.
And that was that.
Out of the game.
Yeah, Coach.
Out of the game.
Yeah.
We had Ellison running all over him between the 20s. Yeah. Kevin Smith making a one-handed catch on our sideline. Brian Oberdick running around all over the place. I mean, I wish I could name them all. I would name them all, but we don't have time. Coach, a day doesn't go by that I don't think about that game because I love those guys so much. That might be my favorite team of all time.
Yeah.
And I love our Lacey teams that were undefeated sectional champions.
Right,
Love those guys.
but this was your team, coach. There's a difference. This was your team as a
Love,
head coach,
right. And
you
that's,
know.
that now there's one team at Lacey that I hold to a standard. And sometimes I say that team ruined me because I look at teams right now and I'm like, our Lacey kids could do that. Even if I'm in college, I'm like, our Lacey kids knew that. Because they're football smart.
Right.
But this team, they're as special. And they are one of the great teams that I was fortunate to be around. They are some of the great people I was fortunate to be around.
So you left Mater Dei at the end of the '99 season, and when did you take over at Pinelands? And the question was, what did you bring with you? Like how did your whole experience there at Mater Dei prepare you to take over a new program at Pinelands?
Well, first off, it goes back to Coach V, because Coach V would always sit down and talk with me about pension.
Yep.
Benefits, things like this. And I'll tell you what, now that it's in effect.
Oh, yeah.
He was right.
Yes, he was.
100%.
And so it was time. My wife also worked up in Monmouth County, and our kids were young, and it was tough dropping my daughter off at daycare in the summer as the AD at Mater Dei and her running to the window with tears in her eyes, and
yes.
Part of it, Coach was in my head, and also was, what, it's time. Said it's time. I could be home in the summer, be with the kids.
Mm-hmm.
They were 8 and 6 at this point, and this would take a lot off my wife, and I would be able to be home and be able to do these things, and it's time. So I interviewed in January at Wall and Pinelands, and I interviewed at both of them, got called back at both of them, but I told Wall, Coach Vidola.
Yeah. Yep.
I said, Coach, you know what? I don't know if that's for me to come back and take a second interview. I think I've come to a decision where I'm going to go, because Pinelands was so hungry.
Mm-hmm.
They were so hungry, and they had success in the past. I mean, Coach Bruno and Coach Murray. I mean, they were great coaches and did some great things.
Yeah.
There. So they had their time, but there was something about it. I really enjoyed my interview there. I enjoyed the people who did the interview there. And I said, you know what? This is for me.
Good.
And I started there in February. I was still the AD at Mater Dei.
Jesus.
Drove down to the weight room 3 times a week down at Pinelands. And then, I lived in Lacey at the time. So it was a good ride home. And everything that allowed us to grow at Mater Dei is what we started like at Pinelands.
Mm-hmm.
And same thing. First year's tough. Second one's tougher. Third one is when it happens. And that group, the third year, for 2 years we were putting in place living football without, of course, the hashtag, because I didn't think of it yet. But doing things that way. And the Pinelands community was so absorbent of it. So good. The parents were so supportive. It was I got to tell you guys, it was amazing. It was amazing to teach there. It was a great place to teach.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed it there a great deal. And then the third year, last year, one of our players from that year, that the team that went to the state playoffs, I forget what year anniversary it was, but he wanted to get together. So about 15 of us players and coaches got together, and we had a nice little dinner down there at one of the restaurants that helps the high school now. And it was just a great thing, because these kids bought in so much, just to carry over from what we talked about Mater Dei. It was the same thing.
Right.
Those that stayed, they stayed and they were all in. We didn't have to get anybody by year 3 on the other side of the fence because that's what we invested in the first couple of years. I don't use the word sacrifice. We invested in, all right, this guy's a great player, but he doesn't buy in. It's not going to happen. Kid, this is what you're doing. He doesn't like it. That's how it is. Okay. Right. We went with those that wanted to be there.
The best.
A lot of them. A lot of great kids. And that doesn't mean they're all not kids once in a while and do things. And we did incorporate one thing very important. If you miss a day of practice, because this was one of the issues taken on, if you miss a day of practice, you sit a quarter. And have carried that through forever since.
That's awesome.
And if you miss 2 days of practice, you sit a half. You miss that third, you're not playing, which,
pretty good formula, Coach. I like
that. That is, yeah.
So that's what we did. And we sat starting linemen. We sat, and I'll tell you what, the one thing when we did that, not many of the players ever missed a practice again.
Right.
Which was big. Now, I was in shock when I got there, though. At Mater Dei, we got 5 game balls. The rest of them had blem for blemished written on them.
Right.
Start the season. I go to Pinelands, I go in the equipment room, I'm like, what the? They got 5 uniforms. They got 82 footballs.
Yeah.
They got 215 shoulder pads. I'm making these numbers up, but something like that. And I'm like, oh my gosh.
This is what it's like?
Holy cow. Then we started building up on the weight room. And, then we had to do things. Again, like I said, it wasn't the paw on the helmet, and that's all. We would have Thursday night meals like we did at Mater Dei. We'd have Thursday night meals. Show them a movie. I remember watching The Lion King with them. Then tell them the meaning of it and what it had to do with us.
Coach, tell me the meaning of it.
Yeah, what is the meaning of The Lion King?
I love it.
You were way more creative than me, for sure.
And then, Coach, that third year, we had a theme for each week. We got to a point we were undefeated. We started year 3-0. Week 4, I brought one of those bow and arrow targets out, and I put it up on a what do they call those things the artists use to put their pictures on?
Tripod.
Easel. An easel.
Yeah, easel. Tripod. Yes. And every week we started out with the theme. And the theme was, you see this little red dot in the middle? Guess what, men? You used to be the dudes with the bow and arrow shooting at it. But now we're the target.
Right.
And they're coming after us.
That's awesome.
You need to learn how to wear that hat. We need to learn how to be a target and not succumb to it. We need to learn how to be a target, yet still have the hunter mentality. Theme for the week. That's just one example. And it followed because, at Mater Dei we had one theme, Braveheart, freedom, right? Weekly, that third year, we started doing it. And listen, we go into the state game against West Effort. We had a great year. We had that year we had to beat Middletown South up at Middletown South.
Yeah.
I think Noshan might have graduated that year because the years before we just tried to stop him and it just didn't happen. Year before, we were beating them in the second quarter, and my old Lacey friend, Stacy, was stomping up and down the sidelines saying, I can't believe Pinelands is beating us. I can't believe Pinelands. Our chain people told me.
Right.
Hi, Stace, if you're listening. And they came and they washed us 38-16, right? Then the following year, we go up there, and again, we're probably at that point better. And, 7-7, 7-0, 7-7, 14-4. They beat us by a touchdown or two. And, it was looking good to win the conference, but we weren't able to do it. But were able to win enough games to get us into the playoffs.
First time ever.
Yes, first time ever. And we go to play West Effort. This team that is beating everybody in South Jersey 55-6, 44-13, 55-12. I met people out at not Olga's Diner, but a diner, Champ Sports Bar at the 70 and 73 intersection out in Washington. I didn't call them for film. They called me because they wanted us to beat West Effort. They're like, Coach, you want our film?
Wow. Yeah, they were a powerhouse, West Effort.
And Coach, our guys bought into it. At that time, Eminem's song was big. One moment, you know.
Lose yourself.
Eighth Mile. Lose yourself.
Lose yourself.
From 8th Mile, I still bust their chops about it because they text once in a while now in that group. And Coach, you know, we make a thing out of it, which I'm really against because, you know, one thing I learned from the great Coach Conti, you know, was you got to make these guys understand how special it is.
Right.
And I understand that. And it is special. But then what I learned more so when we got to Lacey, when I went back with Coach, was make every day special. So what we did is we stopped for lunch at 1 o'clock. They let us out of school. We stopped for lunch at not the Golden Corral, but the one of those, you know, one of those buffet places, those franchise. And we ate. We get to West Effort like 3.5 hours before game time. And Coach, they're cranking Lose Yourself for an hour and a half straight.
Oh my God.
It stopped. It played again. It stopped, you know, one moment in time, you know, this and that. And they got stars in their eyes and they're ready to go. And, you know, we get on the field and Coach, I'm going to tell you what, I always kept in mind, because what West Effort ran the wing T, it was always in my mind, they were not going to run that friggin' tailback rail off a waggle.
Yeah. All right.
But there were also other things. Had Coach Vircillo come over on Tuesday to my house where we met to talk about the best plays to beat an odd front. And we talked about ISO, and we talked about sprint draw, and we talked about the different tempos of draw to run against the bubble and the B gap. We talked about, you know, pin and pull and things like that. And we limited our game plan to what we were going to do against them. And we concentrated on playing defense. And you know, the time of us as a staff, because a lot of guys were from Mater Dei, we played the wing T our whole friggin' life. And we weren't going to let the wing T beat us. None of it. We weren't going to say, oh, if they want counter crisscross, they can have it. No, we were going to take it all.
Mm-hmm.
We did. But they beat us 13-6. And again, I was as proud as that team as I was as that Mater Dei team. You know?
Oh, yeah.
Because we went in there, Pinelands Regional.
Yeah.
Not a storied football program, going in against a storied program.
Right.
And we said, we came to win this game, not to lose 55-6 to you.
Right.
You're not going to succumb to you because you are who you are. It's not going to be 14-0 when we walk on your field. It's 0-0.
Right.
I mean, one of the things I used to like to say at Lacey is I tell our guys, it's 7-0. It's 7-0 because they're playing that paw. And that paw scored 7 points for you. So you need to score more.
Yeah.
You know? And
Coach,
I'll tell you what I would tell an opposing team going into Lacey, that paw scored no points.
Of course.
You're playing those people on the field. You're not playing that paw.
Yeah.
That's what I would tell if I ever played against Lacey.
Yeah, it's a complete psychological freaking warfare, man.
And that reminds me, what you said is analogous to what I tell my defense. You know, that it's never 11-11. It's always 12-11. It's I'm there with them. You know what I mean? Like we have them outmatched every game. Like I'm on the field with you. I basically almost just about am. You know what I mean? And that's how I coach. Like I'm almost standing next to them the whole game long. So I say it's 12 versus 11. They love that.
That's great, Coach. That's great. Because usually it's parents complaining that it's 17 versus 11, which is the officials, which
Yeah.
can't stand that. That's another thing.
So, Coach, listen, man. I mean, that was what a wonderful story there at Pinelands, and what a culture that you built there and brought them to the playoffs, and the kids buying in. I mean, you have experience with kids bought in at Mater Dei, and you were there for a very long time. Kids bought into Pinelands. I wish we had some more time to kind of get a little bit into the latter part of your career there, where we're not even the latter, more the middle, where you went back to Lacey. We can't cover that today, but
that was
you went back to Lacey with Coach Vircillo, and
that's all the Paul.
That's right. And then your college career. I'm real happy that we were able to focus on the New Jersey Warriors and get that information out. It was such an interesting part of the podcast today. And also you're beginning, opening up Lacey School and being a part of that program,
Huge.
and it's just great. So I just want, it was a pleasure having you on today, and I learned a lot about you, and I learned a little bit more about coaching, and your influences now influence me. Like, so the influences that you experienced through your life, that's so wonderful. I feel influenced by those now. So this is really great. So I want to thank you a lot, man.
Know that, the both of you and where you came from influenced me my whole time from the moment I met you all. And, the respect I always had for your program. I know later on, at Pinelands and Lacey, I'm not so sure the Middletown South guys, but you guys, that place, I don't know how much it knows I looked up to it, but it was part of my growth, and it was a standard in my life and in my mind all the time, from which all exemplified and which all were able to do. And I'm just humbled the fact that you two wanted to talk to me about football.
It's awesome. And I would love to get into X's and O's with you at some point. I mean, your college experience and what you brought from your college days into your high school days, and what you're doing with the Warriors now. We can do that privately because you're actually coaching there now.
Yeah.
But we want to eventually get this to where we can do some X's and O's with some guests, and we would definitely have you on for that too.
Well, absolutely. And you guys are welcome to stop by practice any day you want. Anything you want from us.
Awesome.
Not that we do much
great.
for you, but whatever you want.
Coach, maybe we will stop by practice. That sounds pretty good.
Yeah, we're retired now. We can, we got time.
Yeah, but one thing big about me and Coach Cicardo now, we just don't like standing in the cold. So it's gonna have to be one of those warmer days.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, we don't stand in weather anymore.
Yeah, we don't stand
anybody.
We stand in weather anymore.
All
right, so we're gonna sign off on the podcast, but stay on after we end the recording, okay? So again, it was a pleasure having you on, man, and maybe we'll have you on again in the future, and can't wait to come see you guys. And if anyone contacts you because they saw this podcast, let us know. Very interesting,
I will.
Any players, okay?
I will.
Coach, it was awesome. We appreciate your time and, getting to know you much more in depth. And it just solidifies in my mind why we wanted you on here. Everything you said was incredibly insightful and thoughtful and meaningful.
Well, can't tell you how much I appreciate it, man.
No worries, man. Good luck this year, and we'll be talking to you soon.
Thank you.